Hello everyone and welcome to another World of Warcraft guide video. Today's video I'm actually going to be going through every single Shadowlands raid. Blizzard decided to make them all even more soloable now. So I'm going to go through each encounter and I'm going to explain to you what you need to still look out for and what you don't have to worry about anymore. Spoiler alert, most of the stuff you don't got to worry about anymore. But there are still some things, so with that said, let's move into Castle Nathria first. Alright, so the first boss is Shriekwi, and honestly nothing's really changed. It never was hard to begin with, so you shouldn't have any trouble with this. Same difficulty as before, which I rated as easy. The next fight is Huntsman Altimore. Honestly, it's basically the same. You can just target the boss. You don't gotta worry about anything else. Nothing's really changed on this fight either. Still easy. Hungering Destroyer. This actually was a lot harder before because you had a healing absorption on you, but with the new change with the absorb heal is now gone. By the way, I'm doing this without a script, so if I'm stuttering a lot, that's why. So there is no more absorb heal on this. It's just a tank and spank. It's easy as hell now, so you can do that one with no problems at all. Lady Darkfane. Nothing changed. She's still super easy. She was easy before. It's just a tank and spank. You don't gotta worry about anything. Artificer Zymox. There was quite a few things you had to look out for in this fight. The first thing you had to look out for was the swirls on the ground that can instantly stun you and permanent stun you. You can just walk through them now. It doesn't do anything to you. I'll show it to you on the screen because I did it on my paladin, because I basically tested everything on my paladin and put myself through potential death scenarios to see what's changed. So that is no more. You don't have to worry about being stunned by those. And also the ad that will end the encounter that fixates you, it doesn't ever spawn anymore, so you don't have to worry about that either. And also, the Edge of Annihilation, if you went to the middle of it and got hit, there was a chance it could kill you. I don't think it could have, but in the event that you are worried about that, it doesn't do any damage anymore, so you can just basically sit there and nuke this boss. So its previous difficulty was a little bit up there, now I'm making it easy. Sun King's Salvation, everyone's probably here for that one because I made 3 videos on this. I made a video initially at level 70 on how to do it with a healer. Then level 80 came and I made a video on how to do it with bandages. And then people were having problems with that, so I went and did a full-on commentary on how to do it with bandages. Well, guess what? You don't even need bandages now because Kelzad gets a buff as soon as you start the fight that heals him for 1% of his max health every second. So basically, it's just a self-heal. You don't have to worry about anything. I will tell you this, that one of his pyros still go off for some reason, but it won't kill you. It'll do like half of your health at, lower item levels. So very easy now. It was, I think, expert before. Now it's going to be normal, like an easy boss, because the healing does it for you. It's like automatically every second he gets a %, and you won't notice anything. Kill all the stuff still, but you basically can just burn through everything now. It's super easy. No bandages needed. Council of Blood actually has not changed at all. I was very surprised by this. There's 2 things in this fight that you have to look out for. If you saw my previous guide, you will see what that was, but I will go over it real quick. There is an attendant that spawns that will target the lowest health boss and make them immune to damage. So you have to kill the attendants no matter what, or you can't get through the fight. And then the Dancing Fever is still in here. I actually thought this Mythic only mechanic would be gone, but no, the Dancing Fever, if you don't know what it does, every now and then the boss will put it on you and it stays on you for 30 seconds. You'll actually hear a little bit of a difference in the music in the background. If you're not playing music, you'll notice music's playing. That's how you know it's on you if you don't see the debuff. You get 3 stacks of it and you have to jump to remove each stack. So basically, just do this fight jumping the whole time, but keep an eye out for the buff if you're not. Because if it expires after 30 seconds, it will still instant kill you. I don't know why they didn't take that out, but it's very easy to remove. Just jump 3 times and just keep jumping throughout the fight. If you're not confident, you can do it correctly. That's the only thing, that and the attendant, that you still have to make note of. Everything else doesn't matter. Order you kill them in doesn't matter. So yeah, still I would say intermediate because of that, but much easier. Sledgefist is the exact same, and nothing's changed. He was never hard to begin with. Even if you don't do the pillar mechanic and stun him and get the extra, it doesn't matter. If he hits the wall, it doesn't do much damage to you. You can stand in a lot of stuff in this and it's not going to matter. So basically that's not changed at all. Stone Legion Generals has changed in a little bit. It's much easier now. I will tell you that the ads that she summons that will push you off the cliff, that still happens, so just nuke the ads down so they're not a problem. But the intermission change is much faster now. So before, I don't know if you've done this fight before, but if you have to go around and get all the anima orbs after you kill the ads in the intermission, and I think it's like 6 or 7 or maybe 8 of them that you have to take to Renathal. Well, now you only have to take 1, so it's super fast. You DPS the boss down to 50%, go get 1 anima orb, take it to Renathal, instantly goes to the next phase, target the other guy, get him to 50, rinse and repeat. This is way easier now. Also, the meteor that he does, it still stuns you, but it doesn't do any damage to you anymore. So it's weird that they left the stun in, but yeah, it doesn't actually do any damage. There's no meteor at all. It just stuns you. That's it. But yeah, very, very easy now. Only need 1 anima orb to progress through the intermission. And then Sire Denathrius, they actually changed a couple of things in this to make it way easier. The first thing is, if you have done this before, you had to clear probably 4 of your stacks of Burden of Sin, you know, in order to get to the center during March of the Penitent. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I have guides on these fights. But yes, it does mark at the Penitent. And if you don't have any burdens of sin, then you can just walk through it and get, you know, avoid it entirely. But if you have too many burdens, you go too slow, and he'll put a debuff on you that instantly kills you when you hit the ground for phase 2. Well, now you only start with 1. As soon as you start the fight, you only have 1 burden of sin, and his cleansing pain removes it. The only way you can get stacks back is if you don't kill the little ad after cleansing pain, which they have so little health. Just cleave them down. If you ignore them, you might have a problem. But other than that, phase 1 is a joke now. You already have your burden of sin gone, so you can just nuke right through him to 70% and go to phase 2. Phase 2 has changed slightly. Before, if you were too long to get into phase 3, he would summon all the ads around the room that actually could easily cause a wipe. He doesn't even summon them anymore, so you can just burst through and get to phase 3. The only thing in phase 3 you have to watch out for is his knockback. He still does that. He can knock you off the cliff if you're not positioned correctly. Other than that, super easy, way easier than before now. So that's Castle Nathria. Let's take a look at Sanctum of Domination. That's actually the most recent guide that I put out, and I will go through that for you guys. Okay, so the first fight is the Terragru. It's still the same. You have to get the stun immunity from the anima orbs in order to do the fight, because if you don't, he will stun you permanently and you will eventually die. But they made it easier to get. Instead of you having to go around and rely on RNG, it's now guaranteed to show up on your first anima orb no matter what. I thought it was weird when I did this today, because I was checking the changes and I was like, wait a minute. Usually you only get 3 anima orbs, but the first one is 4. Because it always will give you the Ever-Beating Heart, which is the buff you need in order to not be stunned permanently through the Terragru fight. Nothing else has changed. It's exactly the same. You can ignore everything else. And actually, the end, you know, the 10% burn where I said that he hits very hard, he doesn't even hit that hard anymore. So you can just stand there and face tank him. So super easy now. He was already easy before, but it's even easier now. All right, so the Eye of the Jailer, I previously rated this intermediate because of the chains dragging you RNG. Well, guess what? There is no ad anymore. They took it out entirely. So you do the fight exactly the same and you don't ever have to worry about the dragging chains anymore. This fight is so easy now. Nothing else has changed. He still does the same intermissions. You still have to kill the double eyes each intermission, but you never have to worry about abductors anymore whatsoever. So super, super good change. He's now easy. I will definitely rank him easy now. Okay, so the 9 is changed quite a bit to make it even more easier. So I went over a couple things in the video, both videos, that could basically cause you to wipe. And the tank debuff that the boss does, called Pierce Soul, for every stack you'd have 10% reduced movement. At 10 stacks you wouldn't be able to move at all. And when you pair this with the immunity bubble that she sometimes gets throughout the fight, it makes her immune if she's standing in it. If she's immune to damage and you're stuck to the floor, you can't progress the fight and you have to wipe. So guess what? Both abilities have been removed. There is no more tank debuff that slows you at all, and the immunity orbs that you have to move her out of never even show up. You don't have to worry about either of those anymore. Also, for some reason, they took the soak orbs out, the purple orbs, but they never did anything to begin with. But they took those out as well. So now all you have to do is kill all 3 bosses, Most of the other mechanics won't do anything to you. It's super, super, super easy now. It was easy before, but now you don't have to worry about that immunity bubble, and you don't have to worry about the tank debuff. By the way, I did get the mount, because I said it drops a mount in the guide. I got it on my kill with my paladin. I wasn't recorded, but I have a screenshot up right now to show you. I didn't even realize it was personal loot, because I didn't even loot the boss yet. It just jumped right in my bags. But yeah, I got that mount. Okay, so Soul Render Dormazane has changed a little bit. So before I said that he was kind of hard because, well, depending on your gear, if you were 590 or especially if you were lower item level gear, he was actually impossible because after a minute and 20 seconds, the mechanic that you need to do, you couldn't do to stop Hellscream. And when Hellscream happened, you were permanently feared and you had to die. So now the Hellscream mechanic is possible. He will still do Hellscream, but you don't have to worry about the minute 20 seconds anymore, because before what you had to do is you had to have a player in your group take these different chains, run them to the edge of the room and break the chains. But because you were doing it solo, you could only do one chain because there's a debuff where you can't do more than one chain. But what they've done now is it only requires one chain to not do the Hellscream. So if your DPS isn't fast enough, you don't get him down before the minute 20 seconds, you need to basically do the chain mechanic before you cast the Hellscream. And all you have to do is click on one of the chains and walk all the way to the other side of the room and break it, and that will stop the Hellscream cast. He does it a couple times throughout the fight, but honestly, even at in greens, you just freshly leveled 80, you probably won't even see a second Hellscream, but you definitely will see a first one, and that's how you prevent it from happening. You just need to grab one of the chains on the ground, run away to break it, and that will stop the cast. So he's much easier now. There's no DPS check like there was before. Painsmith Rasel, exactly the same as before. He was already easy as hell, probably the easiest boss in here. You can literally stand in everything. I was doing it on my priest and my paladin just to see if anything was lethal. Even the 5 ads that do that cast, and I told you that it would hit for about 1,000,000 health, it never would have killed you before, but now it doesn't even do anything. So they took that damage really, really low. You don't have to worry about anything. You can dodge the mechanics like I went over in the guide before if you want, to avoid the stuns and stuff, but this boss is still easy as it was before. Nothing's changed, exactly the same, super easy. Guardians of the first one's exactly the same as before. You don't have to worry about the core mechanic, and the only thing they really changed is the purging protocol. As I said in the guide, I said that it will eventually start to hurt pretty bad because it stacks and stacks and stacks. It's a white mechanic, right? Well, it doesn't stack anymore. He just casts purging protocol over and over again, and it hits for the same. You never even dent your health at all. You stay full health. So it's just a tank and spank now. Super easy. It was easy before, still easy. Fate Scribe Ralo did require some decent amount of healing because of the enrage mechanic. The fight's exactly the same, but they've actually doubled the length for you to go and do the rune mechanic. I still couldn't get it on Mythic, but I probably could if I actually tried. But you don't have to, because when Fate Scribe Ralo reaches 100 energy, they still do the Berserk or Enrage mechanic. It takes her twice as long to get there. But once she gets to that point, you can DPS her down because the ability Darkest Destiny, it used to tick for like 400k a tick. Now it doesn't do anything. It's not even worth worrying about. It literally barely moves your health at all. So it's another free boss. Basically, that's the point. Blizzard's making this where it's easy, to do all of them. So, all right. So Kelzad is currently bugged as of October 23rd, which is when I'm recording this. It is currently bugged. Probably by the time you see this, it will already be hotfixed. But in the event it is not, it is still technically possible. But unfortunately, you can't do it if you don't have an AoE effect. And what I mean by that is something that can hit a boss without you actually targeting the boss. Like, paladins have Wake of Ashes. Warriors have, I think, Whirlwind and Bladestorm maybe would do it. Mages, Arcane Explosion. Anything that can target the boss that's invisible in the middle will work. So what's changed about this? Quite a lot, actually. So the first thing is the tank mechanic that I went over in the guide that can insta-kill you is no more. You don't even have to kill the ads. You can if you want, and if you do kill them, you don't have to collect their essence. They just go away automatically now. Don't got to worry about that. The other thing is you can now enter the phylactery and not reset the fight. However, I do want to put an asterisk on that. If you go in too fast, it will reset. Wait for the ads to target Arfis. Yes, I said Arfis. There is a little dog in the middle of the room now. His name is Arfis, and I believe you can actually get him as a pet, and he will tank the ads for you upstairs so that you do not have to worry about the fight resetting. That was Blizzard's way of fixing it. Unfortunately, they did break the downstairs area because, as I said before, the remnant of Kelzad is invisible. And again, that's as of October 23rd. If you're watching this in the future, it's probably like hotfix by now. But for the ones watching the guide and it's not hotfixed yet, you need to have an ability to target him that you don't actually have to target him. For my priest, as you can see on the screen, I used Halo and I just spammed Holy Nova. Now, Holy Nova doesn't do dick for damage, and it literally took me 6 down phases to do this. By the way, when you push him to 60% and 20%, you know how it does that cast and it tells you to get out, and if you don't get out, you get knocked off and you die. Well, Blizzard made that even fail-proof. Now, it'll knock you off the cliff and just teleport you back up top. You don't die anymore. You can't even die in there. The only way you can die inside is if you have no way to actually target and do any damage whatsoever to the remnant. If you can't do any damage to him whatsoever, the fight will actually insta-kill you after, I think it's like 2 minutes or a minute and a half from when he does the ability, opens up the phylactery. So to recap, because this was definitely rated very hard before, I would still rate it intermediate just because right now it does require some stupid things, but overall it's easy now once you're, don't have to worry about the boss being missing. So start the fight off, DPS him to 0. Don't worry about the soul fracture thingy, fracture soul. You can kill the copies of yourself if you want. You cannot get killed by them anymore. When he goes into the phylactery, wait a few seconds so that the Arfis can get some aggro. By the way, Arfis cannot die. He has 0 HP for like half the fight. He won't die. One thing I will say, what I said in the previous guide, it is better to still dot up the ads. They don't get buffed, Omega buffed anymore, by the way. Before, if you went into the phylactery and any ads were still up when you came out, they all had a 500% increased damage buff. They don't have that anymore. They still hurt though if you ignore them for too long. So I would still recommend killing them when you're coming back out and keeping them under control. I actually got close to dying because I was ignoring them basically on this attempt. So I had to actually use my Vampiric Embrace and, DPS them down. But yes, that's all you need to do for now. You need to have something that can target something that can't be targeted. Any kind of AoE ground effects work. But don't be discouraged. It may take a while because you need to get him to 60%. You need to get him to 20%, and then you need to get him to dead. However, when you go down in that phase, it is timed. If you don't get to 60%, if you don't get to 20%, you'll have to go down more than one time each, but you'll still get teleported out. Every time that I was DPSing the boss inside and had some kind of damage on him, it always teleported me out. By the way, I actually DC'd during my kill for a good 30 seconds, came back in, and I was still alive. That's how easy it is now. But yeah, you guys can do it, especially when they actually fix the bug. But if you don't want to wait, that's how you do it. You need something that can target. Like on my Paladin, I had Wake of Ashes up. I kept it up, and I literally took him to like 60%, 40% in one hit, and then killed him in the second hit on my Paladin. But on my Shadow Priest, I made the guide for 590 item level. My Shadow Priest is actually 589, and she doesn't even have 4-piece yet. And I went inside, did Halo, which does like about 100k per hit on the rings, and then started spamming Holy Nova. So I actually had to go down in the phylactery, I think 5 or 6 times to kill the boss. But as I said, nothing else is lethal anymore. As long as you have a way to do damage to the boss inside the phylactery, you will be good. And obviously after the bug is fixed, it'll be even easier. But for now, that's how you do it. If you don't have an ability that can target, an NPC, then you unfortunately cannot do it right now. But yeah, overall, would rate this easy now after it gets fixed. Okay, so the last boss, Sylvanas Windrunner, they made a couple changes, but they didn't change something that I thought they would. If you've watched this guide, that I posted recently, you will know that in phase 1, the arrows can do a shit ton of damage. Excuse my language, but it can. And then they didn't fix that at all. They didn't make it, change nothing. It still hits really hard. So you still need to do the phase 1 survival. If you can get through phase 1, no problem, then you're going to have an easier time, which I'll explain in a second. And if you can't, you need to, you know, get better gear or do something that focuses on more, what's the word? Personal damage reductions, anything, survivability, talent for that. Because if you can survive phase 1, you're going to kill this no matter what now. So yeah, get through phase 1, expect a lot of damage from the chains. They don't seem to pull you around as much anymore. You have to walk to them now. I noticed that. But yeah, when you get to phase 2's changed a little bit. So before you had to do both sides in order to progress. You don't have to now. You can pick either side. I chose to do Jaina's side and then just followed her the whole way. But you don't have to do Thrall's side anymore at all. It's still timed just like before. If you get there early enough, you can do some damage to Sylvanas, which makes phase 3 even easier. I was able to do some damage to her and get her like sub 70 or somewhere like that before I even got teleported to Oribos. Everything else in that phase is the same. You can still get knocked off by the waves. The ads don't do much damage at all anymore. That's another thing I forgot to mention. Before, you know, they channeled the hymns and it actually ticked pretty hard. Eventually, if you got hit by the Veil of Darkness, it would tick even worse. But my health never dipped hardly at all, so they don't do much anymore in terms of damage. So you can just pick one side, and then you can just follow all the way. I would just say, just go Jaina's side. Follow Jaina to the top, and then follow her to Sylvanas, and then eventually you'll get ported to Oribos after the timed event. Phase 3 is basically the same, but one change. You still need to jump platforms with the raise, which I showed you how to do in the original guide, and you could probably see me doing it now. So every time she does raise, you do need to jump across because you won't be able to DPS her anymore because she'll be on a different platform. And then every time she casts raise, that platform, the ability to jump is gone. So you have to go to a new platform. Platform 2 is the same, except the one thing that could punch you off the cliff, the Jailer's ability. You know how I said you had to jump across and jump back to avoid it? It doesn't do anything now. It doesn't knock you back. It doesn't do anything. You can just stand there and eat it now in the platform 2. And she probably won't even get to another raise, but if she does get to another raise, you'll have to go to the next platform, and then you'll be able to DPS her down. She dies at 44.7%. Well, she doesn't die, excuse me. She goes unconscious at 44.7%, and that's it. That's Sylvanas. Phase 1 is still pretty hard, actually. I would say if you don't have some kind of survivability there, you might die if you don't do it correctly. But phase 2 is much easier now. You still have to, kill the ads, move up and all that, but you still have to dodge the waves, but you don't have to do both sides anymore. In phase 3, you still have to jump platforms for the raise, but you no longer have to jump across to dodge the Jailer's mechanic that would knock you off the cliff, as I mentioned in the other video. All right, so Sepulchre are the first ones. This is the last raid for Shadowlands. So Vigilant Guardian is still the same. It never was hard to begin with. Still easy. Nothing changed, really. If it did, I never would notice because it was already easy to begin with. Okay, so Skol X, the Insatiable Ravener. He still does a 1 million hit if you're not in melee range, by the way. So if you're a caster, you need to be in melee range. Or he'll do an ability called Destroy, and it hits for 1 million every hit. And it's like 4 casts and you're dead. So definitely stay in melee range for this boss. Everything else doesn't do anything anymore. The frontal cleave does do an ability that I think silences you every now and then or something like that, or stuns you. So still dodge the frontal cleave, just, to minimize your annoyance. But his tank combo doesn't do crap. Before it actually, it hit kind of hard. You had to do a little bit of healing, to get yourself back up there. But now it doesn't do anything. So super easy. It was easy before. It's even easier now. All right, so Artificer Zymox, before this was rated hard because of the rings, which hit pretty hard and required some hefty healing. But actually, no, you never had to do that to begin with. As some people in my comments pointed out, there were some safe spots, so you never got hit by any rings. I did not know that till after I posted the video. But yes, also, just so you know, the rings now don't do anything. And that was the main thing that made it hard. So now you just do the fight the same way you did before. You don't even have to, run them out and dodge the rings anymore. You could just stand in them. They don't do anything. I mean, they do nothing. Everything does nothing. And this is a super easy fight. Just kill all the ads, get through his immune phases, and you can just stand in the rings now. It went from hard to easy, for sure. Okay, so Halandras. Halandras has actually changed too. So the main thing that made Halandras hard was the phase 1, right? And that was where you had to deal with all 3 of those bombs. And you had to keep picking them up and dropping them and delaying the explosion for as long as you can so that you can get through the gate without dying to them. Well, guess what they did? They only added 1 bomb. So 1 bomb actually won't kill you if it goes off. So you don't have to do the bomb at all in phase 1. So in phase 1, you can just ignore the bomb because once it goes off, it'll hit for like half of your health. It will not kill you. It will not. And if you want to do the mechanic, you still can do it. And then the other thing that they changed is that Shatter doesn't knock you back anymore. Remember how I said in the videos before that if you're on the cliff or by the cliff, the Shatter will knock you back and knock you off the cliff. Well, Shatter doesn't do anything now. So that's brain dead mechanic. Don't got to worry about that. Don't got to worry about the bomb. However, in phase 2, if you don't get him down fast enough, Blizzard made a goof, I guess, but they left all 3 bombs up in phase 2. So if phase 2 does happen, you need to pick each bomb up and drop it. When you do that, it resets the timer. Keep doing that until the boss dies if your DPS is too slow. Okay, so Desegni, the Fallen Oracle, is basically the same. It was easy before. Her tank ability that pushed you back did hit hard. I didn't mention that in the first guide, but on the second one, it did do a significant amount of damage, but it wasn't lethal. Now it doesn't do any damage at all, so you can basically do the fight the same way as before, and not have to worry about losing a lot of health. So it's easy, just as easy as before. Okay, so prototype Pantheon has changed quite a bit. First off, the Gloom Bolt doesn't seem to do anything, unless I've just kept absorbing it or missing it, but I never noticed it hitting me at all. I did notice that the Anima Bolt still hits you, but it didn't seem to do a whole lot of damage. The ritual, necrotic ritual, you do still have to do that in the last phase, because once it finishes casting, it will reduce all healing you take by 100%. You still need to do that mechanic. Everything else, the damage is significantly lower now. I would still suggest bringing them both, close to 40% for each phase, so it's easier to do the final phase, because you still have to DPS them down evenly in the final phase, because if you kill one too early, they'll do a reconstruction to where they heal all the way up to 100%. Actually, I let it happen because I was seeing if they still did it as I was testing all these fights, and I was still able to DPS her back down and kill all the other bosses and never had to worry about my health. I had to heal like 2 times. So the damage output is significantly lower now, and the only thing you have to worry about this entire fight now is the necrotic ritual in the last phase. The first one, you can skip it because you'll DPS them down fast enough. In the event you do not DPS them down fast enough in phase 1, if you don't get them to 40%, or at least one of them to 40%, and they finish the cast, then yes, you will be receiving 100% reduced healing for the rest of the fight, but you should be fast enough for that. Anyways, I previously rated this expert. I am now rating this easy. There's nothing that's going to kill you in this fight anymore, except for the necrotic ritual. Handle that, and this boss is so much easier now. And then Lahuvim, Principal Architect, is exactly the same as before. They may have, reduced the damage on the tank ability, because there was a ability that if you took too long, would actually one-shot you. I don't know if they changed that. I don't think they did. If they did, you probably will never notice it, because even at lower item level, I'm pretty sure you will get enough DPS on this boss before it even matters. So nothing's changed. Super easy. Just DPS the boss. If your gear's lower, you may have a little bit harder time. I don't really know. I did this on my paladin. I'm gonna go in there on my priest, and then if I have trouble on my priest, then I'll come back and update this. Okay, so Endwin Ren, a few changes. The first change is Frostmourne, or Kingsmourne, excuse me, as Arthas. Kingsmourne Hunger no longer ends the fight. It doesn't do anything to you. It doesn't even send you in the other phase. It does not do anything. You can stand in it now. I repeat, you can stand in it now. The other ability he did that would place that absorb a heal on you that seemed to not really be that big of a deal, but in the event, it was a big deal. It's no longer a thing. He doesn't do that at all anymore. And then if for some reason you do take too long and you don't beat that 2-minute timer, I forgot what it was, 2 minutes and 20 seconds, something like that, which was a very, very long amount of time. Granted, he does have like 140 million health, but if now, if you don't beat that timer and you do get brought down into the other phase, before it was impossible to do unless you were a tank, but now they hit so little, like wet noodles. You can kill them all, and actually the phase ends pretty fast if you do enough damage to them. But yeah, much easier. If you can't beat that timer now, you can still defeat the encounter. You just have to DPS the boss inside as well. By the way, any damage you do to that boss inside will redirect to Endwin outside. So if you say go in at 19% and you didn't get him to 10%, because you have to get him to 10% within 2 minutes and 20 seconds, or you get sent down. Well, now if you get him to like 19 and you don't beat it, all you have to do is 9% worth of damage to the boss inside, and that's it. And the ads don't hit that hard at all anymore. They're not buffed anymore. So super easy now. Okay, so Lords of Dread, actually some things have stayed the same, so you need to pay attention to this. And when I initially made this guide, I said you need to do it in a certain order. Technically you do not now. I would still recommend the same order, and that is to kill Mal'Ganis first and then Contessa last. However, there was a certain amount of time you had to beat. In the initial guide, I told you either Contessa, well, it was Mal'Ganis. Now it's either one, it doesn't matter. But Mal'Ganis or Contessa needs to die within 2 minutes before the infiltration of the dead goes off. For some reason, they didn't remove that ability. If infiltration of the dead does go off and Contessa does her next fear, it permanently fears you. You cannot do anything. You can immune it off once, but it'll apply right back to you after your immunity is gone. So basically, I would do it the same way my initial guide said. Kill Mal'Ganis first. You have to kill him within a couple minutes. I want to say it's a few minutes. But yeah, after the couple minutes is up, if you have DPM, if you have DBN or Big Wiz, it will tell you when infiltration of the dead is and how long it is and how much time you have. But you have to kill Mal'Ganis or Contessa. I would recommend killing Mal'Ganis next or first, because if you do kill Contessa first and then you go to Mal'Ganis, then you get the Rampaging Swarm. For some reason, she doesn't do it. I said in the guide that she does, but I never got her to do it. But if you kill her first, then Mal'Ganis gets Rampaging Swarm, and it still hits for a ton after it stacks up. Which I'll read it to you. It does say, upon death, the Dreadlord erupts into Rampaging Storm, inflicts 31,000 every second, and increases in intensity every second. Well, I was seeing how hard this would hit, and I got to maybe 40 stacks of it, and it was moving my Paladin's bar. You know, I had to keep healing and healing and healing. Eventually, it would have been unhealable. That was why I never was able to do it that way before, and why I suggested killing him first. So you don't have to deal with that. Just kill Mal'Ganis first, and then kill Contessa second. Everything else is the same. You can still get put to sleep if you stand in the big purple orbs. The only thing else I will mention is that Mal'Ganis no longer heals. That was another reason why you couldn't kill him last, because he would just keep out healing your DPS. Well, he doesn't heal for 10% every time he does the leeching claws tank ability. He doesn't do that anymore. That's why it doesn't matter which order you kill anymore. So I would still say do Mal'Ganis first and then Contessa, so you do not have to worry about the Rampaging Swarm. But keep in mind, you do have to beat that Infiltration of the Dead cast. Either Contessa has to be dead by then, or Mal'Ganis has to be dead by then. Doesn't really matter which one, but Infiltration of the Dead, if it goes off and Contessa is still alive, you're getting permanently feared and you will wipe. So having said that, I would say that the item level I said was 610. I would probably say maybe 600. Maybe if you can do better DPS at lower item levels, you can do it. But if you're not beating that timer, then you need more gear, basically. So yeah, that's the changes for that fight. All right, so Rygolon, a lot of people were upset and bitching about this, and I was upset too, trust me. I even said in my comments for this guy that if I could rate it higher than expert, I would have rated it like, you know, ultra. Because you had such an insane burst DPS check for this. You had to do almost a sustained amount of 1 million DPS for the whole minute and 20 seconds or something like that. The maximum amount you had was like 1 minute and 20 seconds. And if you screwed up that mechanic, the Event Horizon mechanic, then you would get killed by the orbs. Well, guess what? This fight is super easy now because the orbs, they don't spawn enough that can insta-kill you anymore. They still spawn and they still give you stacks, but you'll never reach 7 stacks anymore, which is what would kill you. I think the most you reach is 4, maybe 3. You don't even have to do the event horizon mechanic at all. You can do it for the massive bang. The massive bang, by the way, will not kill you. You can go in if you have an event to go to the massive bang, because if you don't go in here, he'll actually be untargetable for like 20 something seconds. Don't be fooled though, the fight is not bugged. He will become targetable again. You just have to wait for him to go back into the other phase. But yes, this is now easy. It's no longer expert. The DPS requirement is super low now because you don't get the insta-kill mechanics at all. So you can just focus him. Just know that when he does the massive bang, if you're not inside the event horizon, eventually he will come back out, but he'll be untargetable for like 20 something seconds, but he will reset it to the top floor, to the other phase, and you'll be able to kill him. Yes, your prayers are answered. I saw all of you upset about it, saying, when are they going to change this? When are they going to change this? Well, that was one of the big changes. I'm so happy they did it. All right, so the Jailer, I previously rated this encounter expert because of how stupid the mechanic in phase 2 was, and you had to basically go from 60 to sub 30 before he cast Unholy Entombment for phase 2, which was really, really, really tight DPS. If you were like just above 30% as he was casting Unholy Entombment, you would get the rune. Well, guess what? There is no rune anymore. There is no MC rune at all. Everything else I would say do the exact same. I would still get the Azurite buff. Why wouldn't you? Because it's more damage. At 60%, the burst doesn't matter anymore, because if he goes into phase 2, he'll turn to the World Soul. He will never do the MC ability on you, though. He just skips over it entirely. The other thing you do have to pay attention to is in phase 1 and in phase 2 before it begins, is that domination cast. It will still mind control you and in the encounter, so you still need the line of sight. You can't stand in that, as you know, I told you before. So everything else is the same. Phase 4, the final phase, the Mythic only phase, he didn't seem to do a lot of mechanics, but I also went through it pretty fast. So, but most of the mechanics he does won't kill you. The bomb, the room bomb that you jump into the pit, I did it because, you know, if you don't, you get knocked up too high, and you have a potential where you won't get to line of sight his domination cast. So I still do that mechanic, but you probably could get away with not doing that as well. But yeah, no MC rune anymore. So that makes him, from expert in my opinion, to easy now. So that's it, guys. That is all of the Shadowland raids and all of what has changed. Most of everything is super easy now. There's a few things you still have, like Sylvanas' arrows still hit really hard. Obviously the Kelzad bug, excuse me, they will fix. Super glad that they made Kelthos. That's who was on my mind. No healing required at all whatsoever now. It just passively heals him, you know, over the, you know, some random Joe Schmo in the background's invisible casting heals on him. But yeah, so that's it. Everything's so much easier now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope this, you know, me going and looking at these changes and giving them to you guys helped a little bit, so you didn't have to figure it out for yourself. Still watch the guides. I would recommend, just so you know the fights a little bit better, and you will understand more what I'm talking about when I say, you know, certain abilities. You may not know what I'm talking about. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, make sure you leave a comment for me down below. I will try to help you in any way I can. And now, as always, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. Please consider giving it a subscribe. It helps other people so they can see the video, and it promotes it to other people as well to help my channel grow. I really appreciate everything you guys have done for me. I appreciate all of your comments, and I'll see you in the next video.